Barcelona family, let's sit down for a moment and speak honestly. We are at a pivotal moment, one of those turning points that only comes once a decade. Three names echo through the halls of Camp Nou like a whisper of destiny. Fermin Lopez, Ferran Torres, Ronald Araujo. Three players, three stories, three decisions that will seal the future of our beloved club. First, there's Fermin, the young prodigy who said no to millions to stay with us, a pure act of rebellion in modern football. Second, there's Ferran, our forward with a cheerful smile, whose departure could well be the key to our financial rebirth. And third, we come to the most painful decision, the one that shakes the very walls of Camp Nou. Should we sell our warrior, our rock, our Araujo? These choices are not just transactions. They are declarations of intent. They define who we are, what we want to become, and above all, what kind of Barcelona we will leave to future generations. So hold on tight, because the story we're about to tell today isn't just about a season, it's about the very soul of our club. And it begins with an act of pure faith, a choice that sent shockwaves through all of Catalonia. Picture the scene, a 22-year-old man, trained in our ranks, courted by the biggest clubs in Europe, with lucrative contracts laid out before him. Zeros that would make anyone's head spin. Tempting sporting projects, glamorous cities, a life of stardom all mapped out. But Fermin Lopez looked at all of this square in the face, and he said, no. Not maybe, not I'll think about it, a categorical no, unambiguous. A no that resonated like a clap of thunder in the football world. In an era where young talents sign for the highest bidder, where loyalty is monetized and dreams are sold to the highest offer, Fermin chose a different path. He chose to stay. Not for the money, not for easy glory, but for the honor of wearing our jersey, for the promise of building something great here, at home, under the lights of Camp Nou. This choice, my friends, is so much more than a simple contract extension. It's a declaration of war against everything modern football has become. A rebellion against the idea that everything has a price, that everything is negotiable, that everything can be sold. Fermin understood what many seem to have forgotten. FC Barcelona is not a stepping stone, it's a destination. It's not a stop in a career, it's a calling. And this decision, made with a maturity far beyond his years, sent a clear message across the football world. There are still players for whom values matter more than the zeros on a check. What makes Fermin's choice so powerful is that it transcends the purely sporting realm. He has, almost unwittingly, become the standard-bearer for a generation that refuses to sell its soul. In a dressing room where mercenaries come and go, where players change clubs like shirts, Fermin brings something rare and precious. Stability, authenticity, a visceral connection with what it truly means to be a Barcelona fan. His rejection of foreign offers sent shockwaves far beyond Barcelona. For the young players at LAMINE, it's living proof that the club still believes in its own talent, that there's still room for those willing to fight for their dreams rather than sell them to the highest bidder. For the fans, it's a breath of hope, proof that the soul of Barcelona is still alive, that this unique institution can still inspire unwavering loyalty. And then there's this telling detail. Fermin bought a house in Saint-Jean-d'Espy. This isn't just a real estate purchase, it's a statement of intent. He doesn't just want to pass through here, he wants to put down roots, to grow with the club, to become an integral part of this family. He chose to live among us, to share our hopes, our fears, our triumphs. He chose to become one of us, not just in words, but in deeds. When a player like Fermin makes such a decision, it changes everything. It changes the energy in the dressing room, it changes how the fans see things, it even changes how the world views our club. His choice created a positive dynamic, a new energy that radiates throughout the team. On the pitch, his impact is already being felt. Fermin brings what Barcelona has sorely lacked in recent seasons: soul. In a team in the midst of reconstruction, he embodies emotional stability, a tangible link between the club and its supporters. He's not yet an established star, but he's already a symbol. The symbol of a Barcelona rebuilding on solid foundations, a club that believes in its youth and dares to look to the future with ambition. His playing style is as valuable as his attitude. Versatile, intelligent, and technical, Fermin can play in multiple midfield positions. But more importantly, he understands the game. In a football world where individualism often trumps the collective, he plays for the team. He adapts, he learns, he grows. And above all, he understands what it means to wear this jersey, the weight of history, the demand for excellence, the responsibility of representing something greater than oneself. A bet on the future that could change everything. Of course, some skeptics will say it's a risk. That if Fermin doesn't deliver, if his development stalls, he might regret his choice. But these critics miss the point. The real risk for a player of his talent and temperament would have been to leave. Because Barcelona isn't just a club, it's a school of life. Here, you don't become a legend by running from challenges. You become one by facing them head-on. The question we should really be asking is, what if Fermin is the beginning of something great? What if his choice inspires other talents to stay? What if, in 5 or 10 years, we look back and say, it all started with him? His challenge now is clear: to become indispensable. To prove that his choice was the right one, that Barcelona can still produce champions, that La Masia can still develop players capable of dominating world football. And if he succeeds, and everything suggests he has the potential, Fermin will no longer be just a player. He will be an icon. The symbol of a Barcelona that resisted the temptation of easy money, that managed to keep its soul in a world where everything seems for sale. The challenges awaiting Fermin. A story that's only just beginning. Fermin Lopez's story at FC Barcelona is just beginning. But it already has all the ingredients of a great saga. The tale of a young man who dared to say no to the sirens of easy money to follow his passion. The story of a player who understands what it truly means to be part of Barcelona. The story of a talent who could well become the symbol of a new era of greatness for our beloved club. So, Barcelona family, remember this name, Fermin Lopez. Because we've just witnessed the first chapters of a story that could well mark the history of our club. And if everything goes as we hope, we're going to experience unforgettable moments with him. Second, Ferran Torres. The dilemma dividing Barcelona fans. Keep the likable forward or seize the financial opportunity. The Ferran Torres enigma. A beloved player, but never indispensable. Now, let's address a topic that deeply divides our community. Ferran Torres. He's a player we all love for his smile, his unwavering commitment, and his often decisive goals. But here's the hard truth. Ferran has never been indispensable. And in the current context, where every decision carries double weight and every euro must be optimized, this reality presents a painful dilemma. Ferran is a player we genuinely appreciate. He always wears a smile, gives his all on the pitch, and has scored important goals. But there's a fundamental issue. He has never established himself as an undroppable starter. He can play anywhere across the front line, left, right, or as a striker, but he doesn't excel in any of these positions. In the big games, the ones that separate an average season from a historic one, Ferran has often been invisible. Not because he lacks talent, but because he lacks that divine spark that separates good players from true legends. Barcelona today can no longer afford to keep players out of mere affection. We need winners, players who strike fear into opposing defenses, who score when it matters most, who carry the team to the top. Ferran is a good soldier, but not a hero. And in modern football, where sentiment doesn't win trophies, this distinction is crucial. The economic equation that changes everything. This is where things get really interesting. Clubs are willing to pay between €50 and €70 million to secure Ferran's services. A colossal sum, especially given Barcelona's current financial situation. A sum that could change everything. Imagine for a moment what we could do with €70 million. We could finally sign a world-class number 9, a striker capable of terrorizing defenses, a player who scores 25 goals a season as if it were second nature. We could strengthen our midfield with an exceptional playmaker. We could even do both and still have money left to balance the books. Ferran deserves a new adventure, a club where he can be the main man, where he can finally explode and fulfill his potential. And Barcelona, for its part, deserves to turn the page and recruit more impactful players, players who can make the difference when it counts. An opportunity that may not come again. The problem with Ferran is that he has value now. In a year or two, who knows? Injuries, competition, the unpredictability of a footballer's career could see his stock fall. An offer of €70 million today might only be €30 or €40 million tomorrow. In modern football, you have to seize opportunities when they arise. And an offer of this magnitude for a player who isn't an undisputed starter is a golden opportunity. A chance to generate significant funds while allowing a player we love to find a new challenge suited to his level. The impact on team dynamics. Selling Ferran would also send a strong message to the rest of the team: no one is untouchable here. If you don't perform at the required level, you can leave. It may sound harsh, but it's necessary. Competition pushes players to exceed their limits. It creates healthy rivalry, positive pressure that can raise the level of the entire team. Plus, it would free up a spot in the squad. A spot that could be filled by a young La Masia graduate ready to break out, or by a targeted signing that perfectly fits our tactical needs. It would show that Barcelona is ready to make tough choices to return to the top. The human side of the equation. Of course, there's the human side. Ferran is a good guy, a player who has always given everything for the club. No one questions that. But sometimes, in elite sports, you have to make tough choices for the greater good. Ferran has given a lot to Barcelona, and we are grateful for that. But now is the time to look to the future, to make the choices that will allow us to reclaim our place among Europe's elite. And sometimes, that means saying goodbye to players we love. Alternatives to consider. Of course, there's always the option of keeping Ferran. But at what cost? By tying up a budget that could be used for a more decisive player? By risking seeing him stagnate, or worse, regress? No, the smartest solution seems to be selling him now, while his market value is still high, and using that money to sign players who can take us back to the top. Where could Ferran land? Several destinations seem possible for Ferran. The Premier League, where his versatility is highly valued. Saudi Arabia, where salaries are astronomical and he could become a star. Or even a top club in a less demanding league, where he could finally flourish. But no matter where he goes, the important thing is that Barcelona maximizes this sale to strengthen the team. A respectful farewell for a fresh start. If Ferran leaves, it won't be a sad goodbye, but a respectful farewell. Because he has given so much to the club, and no one can take that away from him. We'll wish him all the best, knowing that his departure will have allowed Barcelona to take a giant step toward its future. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to keep likable players, but to build a team capable of dominating European football again. And sometimes, to achieve that, you have to make tough choices. What Ferran's sale could fund? With 70 million euros, the possibilities are endless. We could finally sign that world-class number 9 we so desperately need. A player like Victor Osimhen, or perhaps a promising young talent like Benjamin Sesko. Someone capable of scoring 20 goals a season, striking fear into defenses, and adding a new dimension to our attack. We could also strengthen our midfield with an exceptional playmaker. A player who can dictate the tempo, create chances, and make the difference in tight games. Or we could do both and still have money left to balance the books and give ourselves room to maneuver in the coming seasons. A strategic choice for the future. Selling Ferran Torres wouldn't be a failure, but a strategy. A strategy to rebuild a competitive team, to give our coach, Hansi Flick, the tools to achieve his ambitions. A strategy to reclaim our place among the global football elite. Yes, it will hurt to see him go. But sometimes, you have to let go to move forward. Because the goal isn't to keep players we love, but to build a team capable of winning the most prestigious trophies. And if this sale helps us take a giant step toward that goal, then it will be a brave and necessary choice. Third, Ronald Araujo, the most painful choice. Sell our warrior to save the club? The rock of our defense, the soul of our team. We now come to the most painful decision, the one that shakes the very walls of Camp Nou. Should we sell Ronald Araujo? Our warrior, our rock, our de facto captain. The player who fights like a lion for every ball, who fears no one, who embodies Barcelona's fighting spirit more than any other current player. When Araujo is on the pitch, he is simply impressive. Physical, intelligent, and combative, he is the boss of our defense, the one who gives orders, organizes, and motivates. Opposing attackers fear him, fans adore him, and teammates trust him blindly. But here's the problem: injuries. Too often absent, too often fragile, Araujo leaves gaps behind him that no one can truly fill. And by relying so heavily on one man, Barcelona puts itself at risk. The offer that makes us think. In the current context, where the club's finances are stretched thin and every euro counts twice, an offer of 70 euros or 80 million euros inevitably makes us pause. With such a sum, we could rebuild our entire defense. 2 solid, younger, and more consistent centre-backs. a defensive partnership for the next 5 or 10 years. Of course, selling Araujo would be painful. He is a monument, a player who has given everything for the club. But sometimes, sacrifices must be made for the future. The question of consistency. The issue with Araujo is that we can never rely on him 100%. Every other season, he's injured. And when he's not there, our entire defense collapses. Barcelona needs stability, reliable players who don't spend their time in the infirmary. Araujo is a giant when he's on the field. But the club can no longer afford to depend on a player who is so inconsistent, so fragile. We need certainty, not gambles on a player's health, no matter how talented he is. The long-term strategy. Selling Araujo now, while he's at the peak of his value, would be smart. In 2 years, if his injuries persist, his value will drop. And Barcelona will have missed the opportunity to rebuild on solid foundations. With 80 million euros, we could sign 2 world-class centre-backs. Players like Ruben Dias and Goncalo Inacio, for example. A solid, complementary partnership capable of lasting an entire season without faltering. We could also free up salary space, giving us valuable room to strengthen other positions. Because our needs aren't limited to defense. The impact on the dressing room. Selling Araujo would send a shockwave through the dressing room. A clear message: no one is untouchable. Not even heroes. It would hurt, of course. But it would also show that the club is willing to do whatever it takes to return to the top. It would push other players to question themselves, to give their best. And it would free up space for young La Masia talents to emerge. Alternatives to consider. Of course, there's always the option of keeping Araujo. But at what cost? Risking more injuries? Tying up a huge budget for a player who spends half the season in the infirmary? Preventing the club from strengthening elsewhere? No, the smartest solution seems to be selling him now, while his market value is still exceptional. And using that money to build a more solid, balanced, and reliable defense. Where could Araujo land? Several major European clubs would be willing to break the bank for Araujo. The Premier League, where his physical and combative profile is highly sought after. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, or even PSG could be interested. But no matter where he goes, the important thing is that Barcelona maximizes this sale to strengthen the team. Araujo's legacy. No matter what happens, Ronald Araujo will remain a legend. Not just for his talent, but for his unwavering commitment, his courage, and his love for the jersey. He has been the rock of our defense for years. He carried the team through tough times. And no one can ever take that away from him. The succession plan. If Araujo leaves, we'll need to recruit intelligently. Not just one defender, but 2, to avoid ending up in the same situation. Complementary, reliable players capable of forming a solid partnership for years to come. Names are already circulating: Jean-Claire Todibo, who knows the club well, Goncalo Inacio, the Portuguese gem, or even Jared Branthwaite, the rising English star. But the most important thing is not to make a mistake. Because replacing Araujo won't be easy. We'll need to find players who not only have the technical level but also that warrior mentality that our team so desperately needs. A painful choice for the club's future. Selling Ronald Araujo would be the toughest decision of this summer. But it could also be the smartest. Because sometimes, to move forward, you have to say goodbye to your heroes. Araujo, if you leave, know that you'll always have a place in our hearts. But today, Barcelona needs more. More stability, more reliability, more guarantees. What Araujo's sale could fund. With 80 million euros, the possibilities are endless. We could finally build the solid, balanced defense we've been dreaming of for years. A defense capable of taking us back to the top. We could also strengthen other key positions, giving our coach, Hansi Flick, the tools he needs to build a winning team. And above all, we could restore hope to our fans. Because after years of doubt, frustration, and false starts, we would finally have the means to match our ambitions. A respectful farewell for a fresh start. If Araujo leaves, it will be an emotional farewell. Because he gave everything for this club. But it will also mark the beginning of a new era, an era where Barcelona becomes a winning machine once again. Because, in the end, a club's greatness isn't measured by the players it keeps, but by its ability to reinvent itself, to strengthen itself, and to always look to the future. And sometimes, to achieve that, you have to make tough choices. Choices that hurt in the moment but prove to be the right ones in the long run. More than transactions. These choices are not just transactions. They are declarations of intent. They define who we are, what we want to become, and what kind of Barcelona we will leave for future generations. They determine whether we will continue to live in the shadow of our glorious past or dare to write a new chapter in our history. And remember, no matter what choices are made, no matter which players leave or stay, one thing is certain: our love for this club is stronger than anything. Stronger than defeats, stronger than doubts, stronger than time itself. So let's move forward, together. Because the greatest story in football isn't written yet. And it starts now.